Good evening and welcome to the News First International Desk. Greek politicians are to vote on austerity measures that have sparked nationwide strikes and the worst rioting in Athens for more than a year.
Prime Minister George Papandreou has said that only his €28 billion austerity plan will get Greece back on its feet. The package is expected to be approved by Parliament by a narrow margin, but correspondents say it is unlikely to bring an end to the unrest. If it is not approved, Greece would run out of money within weeks. Greek officials say 46 people were injured in the capital yesterday, including 37 policemen, after an anti-cuts rally turned violent. Police used tear gas against groups of youths in the streets around Parliament and arrested at least 14 people. Greece's austerity package and its implementation law must be passed in separate votes later today and on Thursday for the next installment of the country's €110 billion bailout to be released by the EU and the IMF.
Over in the Middle East, Egyptian police have clashed with hundreds of anti-government protesters in Cairo's Tahrir Square, leaving several people injured.
Riot police fired tear gas to try to disperse the protesters, many of whom hurled stones at the police lines. Tahrir Square was the epicenter of February's revolt that led to President Hosni Mubarak being toppled. Many of the protesters were calling for the prosecution of former officials to be speeded up. The confrontation started yesterday when police cleared a sit-in outside the State TV building by families of those killed in February's uprising. The protesters later regrouped outside the Interior Ministry and clashes broke out with the police. Fighting escalated and moved to Tahrir Square, where lines of riot police carrying shields sealed off the main streets and dozens of security vehicles parked in side streets. Former President Mubarak, in custody at a military hospital, is due to go on trial on the 3rd of August alongside his sons Alaa and Gamal. Mubarak is charged with the deaths of protesters during Egypt's uprising.
French Finance Minister Christine Lagarde attended her last cabinet meeting today after having been appointed the new head of the International Monetary Fund. Lagarde will now have to resign as finance minister and move to Washington for her new job, leaving French President Nicolas Sarkozy to name a new finance minister for the last few months of his presidential mandate. According to a top NATO official, NATO's plans for troop withdrawal will not be affected after an attack on one of Kabul's landmark hotels by Taliban suicide bombers. 9 attackers armed with RPGs and other weapons stormed the heavily guarded Intercontinental Hotel, frequented by Westerners and VIPs, before a NATO helicopter killed the remaining insurgents in a final rooftop battle that ended a raid lasting more than 5 hours. New Mexico fire managers scrambled yesterday to reinforce ground crews battling for a third day against a fierce blaze roaring out of control at the edge of one of the United States' top nuclear weapons production centers. The fire's leading edge burned to within a few miles of a dump site where some 20,000 barrels of plutonium-contaminated waste like clothing and equipment is stored on the grounds of the Los Alamos National Laboratory. A young emperor penguin recovered in New Zealand today, 2 days after it underwent surgery to remove twigs and sand from its stomach. The bird, nicknamed Happy Feet from the popular animated movie, washed up on the beach last week after straying thousands of kilometers from its home in Antarctica.
Time now for sports first, and for that we have Ramesh Irugal Bandar in the news studios. Good evening, Ramesh.
Good evening, Ravi.
I understand we had some bad news from England yesterday, and now we have more bad news from Hong Kong.
Unfortunately, yes, Ravi, as you know, the Junior Rugby Asiad is currently underway in Hong Kong, and Sri Lanka suffered a defeat at the hands of the hosts in an encounter which was worked off today. Sri Lanka got off to a brilliant start and went on to score 14 points through 2 goals in the first half. Hong Kong, in reply, only managed to score 13 points at the short whistle. However, host Hong Kong rallied after lemons and went on to increase their tally by 25 points. Hong Kong played well at both ends of the green and did not allow the Sri Lankans to score a single point in the second half. The scoreboard at the long whistle read 38-14 in favour of Hong Kong. The first leg of the football tie between Sri Lanka and Philippines being played to select the Asian qualifiers for the 2014 FIFA World Cup ended in a draw today. The game was played at the Sugatadasa Stadium in Colombo. Both Sri Lanka and the Philippines were evenly matched throughout the game. However, it was the host that drew first blood, scoring a goal just before half-time. Chatru Gunratna's goal in the 41st minute of the game gave Sri Lanka a 1-0 advantage heading into half-time. However, the Philippines bounced back into the game through a goal in the 4th minute of the second half. Both teams had opportunities to increase their tally. However, all of them missed their mark. The game ended in a 1-1 stalemate. The second leg of the tie will take place on the 3rd of July in Philippines. Sri Lanka suffered a 110-run defeat on the Duckworth-Lewis method in the rain-affected first one-day encounter against England. The game was worked off at the Oval in London yesterday. For an in-depth analysis of the game, we are now joined by Arjuna Ranatunga.
England first one-day game started badly with the weather affected at the start and even in the middle. I thought it was little dicey when Sri Lankan skipper won the toss and put England into bat. The main reason should be because of the rain, they had to play with this Duckworth-Lewis system. I'm sure that is the case Dilshan must be worried about. It was very surprising to see Sri Lankan captain putting England into bed. England openers didn't do too well, but Keith Flett, I thought he batted well with Morgan batting at number 5. I thought those two really played a very sensible innings. On the other hand, Sri Lankans didn't bowl too well. Batting second, especially in the evenings, it will be very difficult, especially with the moving ball. I think Jimmy Anderson started really well. After losing first 4 wickets for 15 runs, top order was back in the pavilion. Sangakkara, Jayawardena, Dilshan and Jayasuriya. I thought that put a lot of pressure on the middle order Sri Lankan batting. Players like Kandambi, Jeevan Mendes, Matthews, they had opportunity to get into form because they are new to the England condition. I'm sure they should have enjoyed batting on the wicket and they should have batted for a little more. But generally I felt it was a very good day for England. Maybe not properly planned game for Sri Lankans. I'm sure that they need to analyze what really has happened. So they need to do a lot of homework before they go to the next one-day game.
When Jason Statham faces off Clive Owen, the result just has to be smashing.
And that seems to be the case with Killer Elite, an upcoming action thriller directed by Gary McHenry.
At least that's what we can glean from the first trailers released of the film.
You and I got a lot in common.
Really? You're sitting there tied to a chair, and I'm standing here with a gun in my hand.
War isn't over till both sides say it is. Well,
I knew I'd find it.
where'd you get this number?
You have no idea who you're messing with. He's like a father to you, right? You don't do this as a dead man.
Listen, Danny's gonna come back for me. And when he does, you're out of here. He's your worst nightmare.
All we gotta do is wait for him to come to us. This guy is good.
You have no idea.
What are you doing?
Let me get my watch back.
should have stayed away.
The gloves are off. This ends today.
And that's a look at primetime news this Wednesday evening. If you want to follow up on any of the stories that we just had, you can always log on to www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Ravi Gamage.
And I'm Kumarini Radhakarna. Thank you for joining us. Take care and good night.